Hello hockey fans and welcome back to another video. Hey guys, how's it going? Apologies for the terrible video quality of this upload and the rather lackluster audio quality. I'm currently using the webcam that came with the laptop that I'm using right now to record this on OBS, and I've also got a Blue Yeti microphone right here that I'm talking into. It's my older microphone before I got an upgrade a couple of years ago, so some of you might recognise the quality if you've been watching for a long time, but yeah. Hi guys, what's up? I'm currently in the government-mandated hotel that you have to stay in during the first 3 days of your quarantine here in Canada. It's my final full day here in this hotel, so I figured today would be a really good opportunity to sit down and answer some of your questions. I put up a post on my community tab on my YouTube channel. I also put up a tweet on Twitter at OddmanRushYT. Go and follow me. I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, it's my last day here. I'm kind of bored out of my mind. There's not really anything to watch. I've watched a ton of movies, played a bunch of video games, and sat here and drank loads of Tim Hortons. So yeah, I figured I may as well sit down and do a Q&A. So let's just get on with it, shall we? So the first question is from Anonymous, who asks, how have you been doing? Oh, thank you, Anonymous. That's very kind of you. Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm doing wonderful. Like I said, it's the last day I'm in this hotel. I've been staying in a really nice hotel near the airport. Really cannot complain with what's been going on here. They've been giving us food. We've been able to order plenty of stuff ourselves. I've been using DoorDash like crazy. Been getting McDonald's, Tim Hortons, because where I live in England, we don't really have the opportunity to use many of these like delivery apps like Uber Eats and DoorDash and Just Eat and all of that. So now that I'm kind of in the big city, you know, I thought I'd take advantage of it for the 3 days before I go to the final quarantine location, which is where I'm working this summer. So I won't have the chance to do that once I'm there. So I figured, you know what, 3 days here, I may as well enjoy it while I can, right? And yeah, I've managed to do okay with the jet lag as well. I've been used to staying up quite late anyway, because, you know, watching hockey games as a European hockey fan, you stay up until 3:30 a.m. most days, if not later, especially if there's Western Conference games going on. So, yeah, I feel like I've done alright with that, been going to bed at a decent time, been waking up at a decent time. But thank you for asking, it's very nice of you. I'm doing great, I'm really excited to spend the summer here. I'm going to be here for quite a while, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to getting back and enjoying all things Montreal. Unfortunately, it's going to be quite a while until I really see the city of Montreal. I have been here a few times before, several years ago, and I'm looking forward to getting back and seeing it all once my work ends as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to having a really good summer. It sucks that I can't really make too many videos for a little while and talk to you guys and talk about all the latest developments with hockey, but this question's kind of gone on for a little bit longer than I expected. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. The next question is from FlyerFan28, who asks a couple of questions. Number one, will you get Tim Hortons every day you're there? Oh, I really wish I could. I'm not going to be able to after today, pretty much, because I'm moving off to my final quarantine place and we can't get food delivered there, so I really wish I could have Tim Hortons every day. I'd be drinking an ice cap every single day. Since I got here, I've had Tim Hortons every single day. I thought I may as well enjoy it while I'm here, right? I'm not going to get the chance for the rest of the summer until right near the end of my time here, so I've got to enjoy the Tim Hortons while I can, and boy did I enjoy it. And the other question he had, also your thoughts on the Philadelphia Flyers. Well, as a New York Rangers fan personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the Philadelphia Flyers, I must say. Although as an NHL fan in general, I think they've got some really good pieces on that team. They're just missing those extra kind of clutch guys to really make a difference for them down the stretch. Obviously this season was really disappointing for them, missing out on the playoffs entirely, and they finished behind the Rangers in the standings, who are a much younger team as well. So the Flyers looked like a team that were primed and ready to go to the playoffs once again and, you know, have a pretty good time there. But unfortunately, that, you know, the East Division, there was always going to be a legitimate playoff contender or two that were going to miss out on the playoffs because, you know, there's only 4 spots available. So unfortunately, the Philadelphia Flyers, and you can say the New York Rangers as well, but definitely the Philadelphia Flyers were the odd team out in that equation. And I can understand Flyers fans being quite upset with that situation because, you know, this is supposed to be a playoff-ready team that can, you know, they might not be a championship contender, but they're a team that could probably go deep into the playoffs, maybe a second, third round appearance. But unfortunately, Carter Hart didn't have the best season. Some of the star players on the roster didn't have the best seasons either. And that culminated in them missing out on the playoffs. Where do they go from here? I don't know. I think they've got to figure out, Carter Hart's got to get his confidence back. That's one thing. He's got to figure out what's going on in the net. Hopefully the Flyers coaching staff and the goaltending staff can figure that out, and they might have to make some decisions on the personnel they have in the lineup. Do they trade a couple of guys and try and find some more clutch impact guys? Do they look within their system and within their prospect pool? I don't know. I guess we'll have to find out. They've got a few months to figure it out because we're now in the off-season, but with the expansion draft coming up, it might muddy the water a little bit. So, as a Rangers fan, regardless, good luck to Philadelphia. I do love to see a good competitive Rangers-Flyers game. They're always fun to watch, even if I'm not rooting for the Flyers. But yeah, they're always fun. Good luck to the Flyers. Here's hoping they can figure something out over the next season or so. Next up, we have a question from Jackson Graney. I hope I'm pronouncing all of your names right, by the way, guys. If I don't, do let me know in the comments, by the way. But regardless, Jackson asks this question. Have you yourself ever played ice hockey, either organised or pickup? If so, at what ages or levels? Now, it's kind of embarrassing to admit considering I run a hockey YouTube channel, but no, I've never played ice hockey before in my life. I used to play field hockey when I was younger, kind of, my early teens and pre-teen years, but I've only ever ice skated twice in my life. Once when I was about 7 years old, and then the second time 2 years ago, when I was in Montreal again, funnily enough. After my work ended, I went to the indoor rink. It's by one of the big metro stations. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but yeah, I'm not very good. I don't like falling over. I don't like slipping and falling. I'm a big, tall guy, broad guy, and, gravity isn't very kind to us tall folks, so, we've got further to fall and it hurts a little bit more. That's the excuse that I give myself. It's just more I don't really want to fall over. And, that was the second time I'd ever ice skated, the first time in over a decade, more than a decade that I'd ice skated, and, I was holding on to the side the entire time. I did not want to fall over. Obviously, I need to just kind of let go of my inhibitions and just let myself fall over a few times, and then I'll pick it up. But yeah, considering it had been over a decade, well over a decade since I'd last skated, I was kind of I'm not too sure about this, guys. So yeah, I need to kind of get over that fear and conquer that, and maybe I'll get the chance at some point. I'm going to be here for a little while, especially after my work ends, so maybe I'll figure out how to ice skate then, in the middle of summer. Great idea, Odd Man Rush. We have a question from Matthew Griffian now. I really hope I pronounced your name properly. Sorry about that. But we have a question from Matthew who asks, which playoff collapse was worse this year? The Leafs or the Colorado Avalanche? It's got to be the Leafs, right? It's got to be the Toronto Maple Leafs. They were hyped up as this legitimate playoff contender by, obviously, Toronto sports and Canadian sports and most of the NHL, to be fair. I'll give Toronto credit. It's the most complete roster they've had in decades, especially since their last playoff win was 2004. So it's been a long time since they had a roster that actually looked this good on paper. Unfortunately, it just couldn't get the job done. History found a way to repeat itself. The ghosts of playoff series gone by managed to come back and haunt them when it mattered most. Fair play to the Montreal Canadiens. Obviously, I'm wearing a Montreal Canadiens shirt right now. I'm in Montreal, so yeah, go Habs. But at the same time, you've got to give the Habs credit for how they managed to claw their way back in the series. But at the same time, the Leafs really blew it, didn't they? When you compare it to the Colorado Avalanche situation, obviously they lost in 6 games in the second round, but they lost to the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, no offense to Montreal, I don't want any Habs fans, considering I'm in their city right now, to get the wrong end of the stick here, but I think everyone can agree that the Habs weren't considered a legitimate playoff contender when the playoffs began. I think that's a fair thing to say, right? You look at all the Sportsnet predictions for their first 2 rounds, none of the insiders had, I think one of them had the Habs going through, and that was after they'd already beaten the Leafs. Nobody had the Habs going through that first round against the Leafs, and then one person had them going through against the Jets in the second round. So when you compare the competition that the Leafs had and the competition that the Colorado Avalanche had, the Avalanche had a legitimate contender, or seen as one of the best teams, if not the best team in the entire league this year, the Vegas Golden Knights. The Colorado Avalanche Vegas Golden Knights series was a solid series. We knew a team that deserved to be deeper in the playoffs by the end once the dust settles on the Stanley Cup playoffs. Both of those teams deserve to be in the conference final stage, in the Stanley Cup final stage. Obviously, they're both Western conference teams, so they wouldn't make it both to the Stanley Cup finals with the way things are operated, but both of them are very deserving teams. They're very deep rosters with very talented guys and 2 Stanley Cup favourites pretty much since the puck was dropped on this season. When you compare it to Toronto going up against the Habs, it really was a David versus Goliath situation, and David won. Goliath was completely slain, and They took the 3-1 series lead, the Leafs, obviously, but they couldn't close it, and that's been the issue that they've had for years and years and years. I mean, we can obviously call back to the Boston series that they've had over the last decade or so, which obviously still haunt Leafs fans to this very day. So yeah, I think it's got to be the Toronto Maple Leafs. They needed to win at least one series. If they'd won the first round and then been completely demolished by Winnipeg in the second round, Leafs fans would have been understandably upset, but at the same time it's like, we've made progress. We finally defeated those first round demons, we got through to the second round, and we can consider ourselves like, we deserve to be here. But instead, this year they had a great regular season, but when it really matters most, they weren't there. And obviously there's been lots of finger pointing to Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner, it's all their fault, and they should have played better, which they should have. But at the same time, there was so many, you can't pin it on one certain player or one specific situation. It's a culmination of all of these things. You could make the argument, if they shut it down in Game 5, then the series would have been over. You could also make the argument, okay, well, if they shut it down in Game 6, it would have been over as well. Or if they shut it down in Game 7, that you can keep making excuses and keep being like, if they did this or if they did that. The fact of the matter is they didn't. And they're out. So they need to learn from this. Obviously, all the great teams that have been out there, all the kind of dynasty teams, or all the great teams that have gone on to win a cup, or they've all faced their adversity. The Tampa Bay Lightning got swept by Columbus 2 years ago, and then they came back and won the cup like the next year. So sometimes you need these guys to grow together as a group and realise what it really takes to win just a round, let alone 3 different rounds. So I think Toronto will be okay in the long run. I mean, I don't mind watching Leafs Twitter completely implode on itself. I think the Colorado Avalanche is just really hard luck for them, to be honest. They came up against a equally, if not slightly more talented behemoth team in the Vegas Golden Knights. So we knew a team that deserved to be deeper in the playoffs would be saying goodbye to the postseason in the second round there. Both teams very much deserving. That should have been the semi-final matchup between those two, shouldn't it? But unfortunately, that's not the way it worked this year with the playoff format. So yeah, I've got to say the Leafs had the bigger upset. What was the question again? I need to find it. Where did it go? The bigger playoff collapse. There you go, Matt. Yeah, it's the Leafs. It's got to be the Leafs. They completely imploded on themselves, and they only really have themselves to blame. I guess history really does repeat itself, folks? Next, we have a question from Twitter, as I also put up a tweet asking for your guys' questions, and this is from Nat, hopefully, at NJW Wales, who asks, do you follow a British hockey team? Yes, I do, Nat. I follow the Nottingham Panthers of the EIHL. They're my first British team, and the second is the Sheffield Steelers of the EIHL. Now, if you're an EIHL fan like I think you are, Nat, you're probably wondering, how on earth do you support both the Panthers and the Steelers at the exact same time? Well, funnily enough, it all goes back to my first hockey experience, my first live hockey experience. The first hockey game I ever watched live was for my 18th birthday, which every year gets further and further away, and I think, oh god, I've been a hockey fan for a long time now. But yeah, it was for my 18th birthday about 6 years ago. Oh my god, 6 years ago. And I went to the National Ice Centre to watch the Panthers play. And then for the next year, my 19th birthday, I went to Sheffield to watch the Steelers play, because I think Sheffield is about half an hour further away from where I live. For context, where I live, the closest Elite League rink now is Guildford or Nottingham, and Nottingham's about 3 hours, 3 hours away from me one way. So as you can imagine, I don't get up to watch EIHL games very often, especially in Nottingham or Sheffield. Obviously Milton Keynes and Guildford are slightly closer to my proximity, but it's still a notable journey away. So so I decided, for each of the birthdays I'd try somewhere slightly different. I do love Sheffield's arena. I do love a lot of things about the Sheffield Steelers organisation. The way that they are with their fans are great. I love the Panthers, obviously. They're the first EIHL team I ever watched, and they've had some great runs over the years, especially with this Elite Series run. They did quite well, considering they were kind of the underdogs after the first couple of games, because they didn't have the best start, but then they managed to pick it up in the end. Ben Bounds obviously really helped with that, and I'm not surprised, he's a great goaltender. But yeah, Nottingham Panthers and Sheffield Steelers. Although I do like the EIHL as a whole. The Cardiff Devils are a solid organisation. The Belfast Giants are such an underrated organisation as well. But yeah, those are my teams I support. Hopefully you're not going to sit there and angrily type at me in the comments, oh my god, you're a Panthers fan. I hate you, Oddman Rush. You're disgusting. One more question from Twitter now, and this one comes from Logan Helmers at logs_101. I'm not sure which one it is. I'll just go with both. And he asks, what's your opinion on having another NHL game in London? What teams would you like to see play? I would love that. That's a brilliant idea. Obviously, they did one at the Wembley Arena, I think, many years ago. We're talking like the early 2010s, late 2000s, or the late noughties as some people call it, and it was Anaheim versus the LA Kings, wasn't it? I really think they've got to go for like an original six matchup here. I feel like a Montreal-Boston or a Toronto-Boston or a Toronto-Montreal. You could even go for, I don't know, Chicago-Detroit, although Chicago, they get all the special games. Maybe leave Chicago out for once, NHL. I'd love to see the Rangers play one, maybe the Rangers-Islanders, it's not an original six matchup, or the Rangers-Flyers. Obviously, that's kind of my bias there as a Rangers fan, I wouldn't mind that at all. But yeah, I think they've definitely got to do another one, especially with how GB have been playing recently in the IIHF World Championships and the steady progress they're seeing. If we get some more NHL games in London, it can be an exhibition game, it doesn't have to be a regular season game, but if we get more games there, I think it will only do wonders to help grow the sport here in the UK and here in Great Britain, because we're starting to see steady progress with our national team, but if then we get the biggest league, the biggest hockey league in the world to come over and, you know, help boost that kind of engagement in the sport itself, I think it'll do wonders for not only NHL fans in Europe and NHL fans in the UK and GB, but also for the domestic product as well. It will help put more bums in seats for the EIHL and help more people keep an eye on how the Great British national team does, which they've done pretty well, all things considered, over the last few years. So, yeah, I'd love to see another game in London. I would absolutely go and watch it, without a doubt. It'd be really cool if, you know, like, the NHL invited some, like, content creators based in the UK to go and, like, vlog the event or something. That'd be really cool. So if you're thinking about it, NHL, you know, hook me up. I'll be there, and I'll give some positive coverage of the Stadium Series or the Global Series or the European Series, whatever you want to call it. Just get me tickets, NHL. They're going to be expensive regardless. Come on. I'm a YouTuber. We don't earn that much, alright? And last but by no means least, we have a question from Yomasi. I hope that's pronounced right. Yomasi, something like that. I don't know. And they ask who my least favourite team is. I'm going to assume you mean NHL team, based on the fact that this channel is predominantly NHL stuff. I mean, to be honest, in terms of the wider European hockey world, I don't really have a least favourite team. I guess it depends on which team's playing my favourite team in that league. You know, if the KHL, whoever's playing St. Petersburg, and they take a few liberties with the SKA players, I'm like, oh, I don't like you guys. But in terms of NHL teams, I don't think I have a least favourite NHL team. I didn't like the LA Kings back in 2014 when they won the cup against the Rangers. Yeah, I really didn't like that at all. And I think every single fan of a team that lost in the finals will feel that. I still haven't forgiven Alec Martinez. I don't care he's on Vegas now. Damn you, Alec Martinez. But anyway, yeah, do I have a least favourite NHL team? I think it depends on who the Rangers are playing. Obviously, with the Tom Wilson situation, you know, several months ago or several weeks ago, I wasn't a huge fan of the Washington Capitals at the time. I was like, I really don't like you, Washington. What are you doing here? Especially Tom Wilson. But, you know, it's part of the game. These things happen, whether they're, you know, legal within the rulebook or not. Yeah, or like if there's a game where, you know, the Rangers get in a bunch of fights or people take liberties with them, I don't really have a least favourite NHL team. I'm just a fan of the league in general. I'd much rather prefer, you know, like, I'm kind of indifferent to a lot of the teams in the league, I think. There's so many teams out there that I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, they have some success. You're like, hey, great. I don't have really, like, any ill will towards any teams. Does that make me less of a hockey fan for thinking so? Or does that make me more of a hockey fan because, you know, I'm just happy to have hockey teams and hockey games being played? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe you can answer that for me. Who knows? But in terms of least favourite team, I think just because of the history, I'm going to give you an answer. I can't leave you with the final question of the video without an answer. So I'm going to say the Philadelphia Flyers, because the Broad Street Bullies and the Blue Shirts, the Broadway Blue Shirts, they've had some fun games over the years, and there's a lot of animosity between those two sides. I'm sorry, Flyers fan. I answered your earlier question. It was a great question. I feel like I gave a good answer on how the Flyers are doing, but if I have to pick one, it's probably going to be the Flyers or the Islanders, but I'm really not that bothered about either of them. They're two legit, solid teams at the moment. They've certainly, for the most part, recently been doing a lot better than the Rangers, so what can I say? But yeah, I'll go with the Flyers. That's my answer. Not a very convincing one, but you got one. You're welcome. And on that note, I'm going to end today's video. This is going to be the legitimately last video that I make for several months now. I know I've said that about the goodbye video and the pack opening video that I uploaded a couple of days ago. I really haven't been very consistent with this is the last video for a long time, but I can say unequivocally this is the very last video that I'm going to be making on the Odd Man Rush YouTube channel for quite a while, pretty much until early September. It's obviously about mid-June now, so it's going to be about 2.5 months until I see you guys guys properly again for a video. So I just want to say a big thank you once again for watching this video, for supporting the channel. Thank you for all your questions. I know there's some I didn't get to, but otherwise this video would have been really, really long. And, you know, whilst I am kind of bored in quarantine, I do also want to sit there and watch some, like, Blue Jays baseball and, you know, watch some hockey and stuff. So I wanted to keep it long enough that you had something to watch, but not too long that you guys got bored out of your minds halfway through. So thank you for all your questions, do appreciate it. Thank you for the support over this month, the last few months, over this last year, and, you know, ever since I've been doing this like full time. Really do appreciate the support, guys. It means so much to me, and the fact that you've been coming back video after video. I'm such a lucky guy, really. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Enjoy the rest of your summer and your off season. Things are starting to get better, hopefully, so let's all have a great time, have a great summer, and just enjoy yourselves. And I'll be back in September to talk all things NHL. I've got some great videos lined up, and I'll see you soon. This is a super long-winded outro. I'm gonna go now. Thanks for watching, guys. See you later. A big thank you to Connor B, Drew Fawcett, Houston NG, Jordan Whitehead, Saeed, Twin Sanity Dad and Worthless Pieces, as well as a huge thank you to Carl Fairbank for helping support this video via Patreon. If you too want to help support the channel a little bit further and get a shout out at the end of every future video, make sure you head over to patreon.com/oddmanrush and become a patron today.